The mid-year sale just kicked off yesterday on the PlayStation Store, and while not nearly as insane as the last few sales, there are still plenty of great games here. The sale ends on July 8th, so get these games cheap while you can. Special thanks, as always, goes out to Duranfan for putting these lists together, making my life so much easier. Getting the deluxe edition of Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown for close to $20 is kind of an awesome deal. I know it's a bit of a tough sell considering there are only 3 stages with VR support, but unlocking everything requires multiple playthroughs, so even if you're only getting this for the VR mode, you can still get about 10 hours out of it. Pretty much the definition of AAA in VR, Blood and Truth takes the London heist from PSVR Worlds and explodes the concept into a full game. The node-to-node locomotion is reminiscent of Time Crisis, but Time Crisis never had a story this good, so much DLC, or so much to unlock. For $20, this should be in everyone's collection. Whenever I hear someone compare Bravo Team to Time Crisis, it makes me wonder why I've had so much fun with Time Crisis and almost no fun with Bravo Team. Then I remember that Bravo Team has boring enemies, stale environments, jarring third-person locomotion, no bosses, and no vehicles. The aim support in 2-player co-op should save this one, but doesn't. Definitely one of my favorite games of 2019. Demo Reborn is part puzzle game, part piano rhythm game, and the entire thing is simply beautiful from beginning to end. I do wish the VR version had a dynamic over-the-shoulder camera like the non-VR version, and I'll admit that using the moves to play piano can feel a bit sloppy, but these are pretty minor complaints overall. If you end up loving the rhythm parts of Demo, then this season pass is an incredible deal, adding 60 new songs to play. That said, there's honestly more than enough music already packed into the campaign to keep you busy for hours, and so you might want to play the game first, before deciding if you need more songs. Detached is the ultimate PSVR game to test your VR legs. You float out in space as an astronaut, rotating on every axis, attempting to make it from one destination to another, through vast amounts of open space with just enough oxygen to keep you going. Despite some terrible checkpoints and often brutal difficulty, Detached is an unforgettable experience. While we're at it, let's talk about Telefrag, because there's a bundle on sale now called the Galactic Collection with Telefrag and Detached for just $12.24. Sadly though, Telefrag never really made it past the proof of concept stage of development. It's 1v1 only, and despite promises that the bare bones game would be updated based on consumer feedback, no updates have ever been made. So even if you do have someone to play against, you've only got about an hour before the boredom sets in. Skip the collection and get Detached on its own. I'll be the first to admit that Déraciné is not for everyone, and certainly not what you'd expect from the developers behind Bloodborne and Dark Souls. That said, what starts off as a sleepy, slow-paced point-and-click adventure with node-to-node teleportation eventually pays off when things get dark and disturbing. For $10, this is an amazing deal. Let's ignore for a moment that Everybody's Golf VR is single-player only and has the most annoying caddies of all time. Because once you get past that, you're in for the most relaxing, most realistic game of golf you've ever played off the course. The move controls feel perfect and incredibly accurate, leading to really satisfying drives and even more satisfying putting. And each of the 3 courses features some really stunning graphics. Being trapped alone on an alien planet with killer spiders that fly directly at your face might sound like a nightmare, and that's because it is. But Farpoint adds a beautifully well-told story, aim support, a good variety of weapons, a decent campaign, 1v1 multiplayer, and a bunch of co-op levels, making it possibly the best first-person shooter on PSVR. Despite some awesome tables and environments, the controls in Hustle Kings never got proper VR support, meaning that actually playing the game with the headset on is an exercise in frustration. It's too bad. This one could have been awesome. Even with its goofy story and T-Rex player arms, Immortal Legacy: The Jade Cipher is still the closest thing we have to Uncharted in VR, and people hate when I say that. You start off fighting human enemies, but quickly you find yourself in horrific underground caverns infested with zombies. Boss fights, climbing, and solid puzzle solving round out this 4-hour adventure, which I've now completed about 4 times, just because I love it so much. The quality of Intruders hide and seek is all over the place, but it gets the job done when it counts. The story focuses on a home invasion with you, as a 10-year-old boy, tasked with saving your family. But as the game progresses, you start uncovering more and more details, making you wonder who the real bad guys are. Sadly, the game ends just as things start to get good, but for $2, you definitely shouldn't miss this one. A pretty simple target practice game reminiscent of Gun Club VR, Lethal VR takes a more arcade approach to shooting. You'll blast through all the stages before you know it, and if you're the kind of person who obsesses over time and accuracy, you'll certainly get your money's worth out of replaying Lethal over and over. I've never been a fan of the Mega Dimension Neptunia series, so as far as the non-VR game goes, you're kind of on your own. But the VR aspect here is nothing more than a dressing room mode, and certainly not worth buying the full game for. In Stifled, you play as a blind person who needs to throw rocks to activate a kind of echolocation, resulting in a game that mostly uses wireframe graphics. There are elements of stealth and horror, and both keep things interesting enough till the end. It's not amazing, but if you absolutely need another horror game, Stifled should suffice. The Midnight Sanctuary is a pretty straightforward visual novel that only asks the players to choose which location to go to next, meaning it's not terribly interactive, and even with a runtime of about 3 hours, it still manages to wear out its welcome a little too soon. It doesn't help that I'm personally not a fan of the art style or the 3D effects they used in this one. Every time someone brings up Torn, I try to reconsider my opinion on it, but despite some beautiful, albeit low-res locations, and an anti-gravity device that lets you throw stuff everywhere, the game itself is just no fun at all. Every puzzle is exactly the same, meaning every time I walked through a door, I was thrilled to see a cool new environment, then immediately disappointed that I had to deal with the same puzzles to proceed. TrackLab is a puzzle game disguised as a music creation tool, and I didn't enjoy the puzzles or the music creation, so I've got no problem skipping this one completely. Trover Saves the Universe might be the funniest video game I've ever played, with some truly laugh-out-loud moments. Pretty much everything in Trover is in bad taste, but that's all part of its charm. Aside from that, expect a cool progression system with new abilities that unlock throughout the game, fun platforming, and plenty of collectibles to find. Tumble VR gives you a series of puzzles, but a good majority of them require you to build towers with mismatched blocks to certain heights. There's nothing groundbreaking here, but for $5 it's a good time that'll take you a couple afternoons to complete. Possibly the best racing game on PSVR, the Wipeout Omega Collection is actually a collection of 3 older Wipeout games brought into VR with stunning graphics, a first-person cockpit view, and ridiculous speeds that ramp up after the first few races. Learn to use those air brakes or you'll be slamming into every single wall, but once you get that down, the feeling is incredible. If you're looking for an amazing puzzle game with stunning environments, full locomotion, and great music that'll take over 10 hours to complete, you can't go wrong with Zing the Land Beyond. The fact that Zing launched at $20 was mind-blowing to begin with, so this $10 sale price makes it an absolute steal, and should be in every single PSVR collection.
Above the flood.